All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started, guys. We've got 40 minutes, but we're going to plan to leave probably 10 or so minutes at the end for questions, so definitely hit us with some tough ones. My name's Cody Ferguson. I work for the Department of Defense in the Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office. I run our data and AI management branch, which consists of really 4 separate portfolios: how we connect to data sources, how we govern data, our support to data scientists and data engineers across the entire organization, and then our data operations layer, so all the automated and event-driven architecture and frameworks that we put in place to move our data utilizing Databricks.
And I'm Joe Hirsch. I work at Booz Allen Hamilton, technologist there, and I support the CDAO's mission. We're working together to basically hit all the things that Cody mentioned and realize the data mesh and interoperability that we're going to dig into in detail here. So thanks. Kick it back to Cody.
Awesome. So the first thing I kind of wanted to highlight is obviously we're here talking about data mesh. Why does that matter, particularly to the Department of Defense? If you came last year, I presented the same exact slide, but I think it is super important to highlight how complex our environment really is, and why we think that the data mesh architecture and the socio-technical approach to implementing that will actually greatly benefit us. So aside from some of the things you see on the screen here, which really, if you think about it, any one of our business or mission domains is the equivalent of multi Fortune 500 companies in one single area. But the Department of Defense as a whole roughly has 3 million people, active duty military, civilians, guards, and reservists. We've got 27 different defense agencies and field activities. We've got now 5 services with the Space Force. Pat will yell at me if I get this wrong, but I think we have 7 geographical combatant commands all over the world and 4 functional. And so trying to integrate all of those organizations across the Department of Defense is really what we're hoping to do with this data mesh architecture. So you see here, we have more aircraft than Southwest, more ground vehicles than FedEx. Our supply chain is roughly 3 times as many suppliers as what Walmart operates with. These are pretty staggering numbers. We do work in the Pentagon. It's been affectionately called by some folks the 5-sided puzzle palace. And that probably just speaks more so to the complexity. And if you ever go to the Pentagon, you're likely to get lost in that building. So, but it's a great place to work, and we're trying to really solve some pretty unique and complex issues here. Joe will talk a little more about our infrastructure and architecture and why it can be so challenging when trying to integrate data across the department. We have probably over 3,000 business systems and still operate some of the oldest systems known to mankind. The Defense Department has been around since 1947, so there's probably no surprise there. All right, so moving on. Funny story about this. So we did mention we work in the Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office. It's a new organization that essentially leads and oversees DoD's strategy with regard to data analytics, AI, et cetera. And really, that was created from essentially 4 pre-existing organizations in the department, one being the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center, Defense Digital Service being a second, our Chief Data Office being a third, and then the Advana platform, which is an enterprise platform that we operate on, being the fourth. I think it was actually supposed to be called the Chief Data and Artificial Intelligence Office, but somebody actually fat-fingered that one and sent it to Congress. And so even though we're a new and unique organization and trying to be really streamline data and analytics across the department, we still deal with the same bureaucracy that many of you probably are familiar with when it comes to the government. So we've got, for this year, I should have highlighted this before, but our actual Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Officer is Dr. Craig Martell. He came from the head of machine learning at Lyft, the ride-sharing company that you guys probably know and use. He's got essentially for our fiscal year 23, 4 big plays is what he's calling them. So you can see these on the screen here: AI, ML, scaffolding, business performance metrics and pulse, improved data quality, and digital talent management. And then we kind of have a hierarchy of needs in terms of how we're going to actually deliver on those things. Foundational enablers is obviously at the core of what we do on the Advana platform. We operate that infrastructure across 3 different networks because we are dealing with classified information as well. And then we also have some environments where we can actually open our data and analytics capabilities up to a broader audience, not necessarily internal to the Department of Defense. Quality data is a big one. If you hear him speak, oftentimes he'll say that he spent most of his career focused on artificial intelligence and machine learning. But while he's at the Department of Defense, getting quality data is his sole mission, because we have so many different business and mission systems operating on entirely degraded environments. It's really important to get that data and in a place where we can perform enterprise analytics or artificial intelligence on it. And so getting the data right is really a core tenet for us. Over top of that, obviously, is governance. We'll talk about a federated computational governance principle of the data mesh architecture. And then, of course, analytics and metrics, and then responsible AI. So some of these efforts you see on the screen. So Pulse is really the effort that aligns to the Deputy Secretary of Defense, essentially allowing her to see what the health of the Department of Defense is at any point in time. So we essentially are taking probably hundreds of data sources and integrating them into dashboards and analytics that she's able to pull up pretty much at any point in time and get a near real-time picture of the status of the department. I touched on improved data quality, but really that's meant to then support some other efforts that we're working on right now. GUIDE is the Global Information Dominance exercise, so essentially looking to streamline our data integration layer and enable the folks that are performing these operations to have access to that data near real time to make decisions on courses of action should a real world event actually happen. JADC2 is a complementary effort there, so Joint All-Domain Command and Control is really looking at trying to integrate data into how we make decisions about command and control systems, and integrate that into things like drones or weapon systems, things like that. Digital talent management is a big one. Because we are government employees, it's really hard to recruit and retain really good talent in the department. So we have a specific focus on that. In fact, a lot of us, when we moved over, we were originally in the comptroller's office, and I think some of us are still financial systems analysts, but we do data engineering, data operations, artificial intelligence on a day-to-day basis. So what our position titles don't really accurately reflect the things that we're doing. And that's why the digital talent management is such an important effort for us. So I think we're gonna kick it over to Joe here.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. So we're going to just dive into the different things we're doing on the Advana platform and with the CDAO to actually realize this vision of all those complex projects and programs that are basically coming from the very top leadership of the Department of Defense, of the things that we need to concentrate on. So diving in, there's 4 main data mesh principles that we're concentrating on, and each of these 4 things, we view as equals. We have to do each one extremely well and mature simultaneously to realize the vision of the complexity of the problems that we're trying to solve on a day-to-day basis. So first, data as a product. The DoD, we're pretty mature with building a pipeline that feeds directly, one application or one dashboard. But we have to, from a people perspective and with the technologies we're implementing, think about serving data as a product to the consumer. So, just like, consumers vote with their wallets, whether you pick Uber or Lyft, right? You're voting every day in terms of what products you choose to use. So we want to think of it that way, where we're empowering our engineers and our domains to build high-quality data products as assets to be ready off the shelf to be used by every single one of those missions in real time when it's needed. The other aspect, talking about people, is domain ownership. Cody hit I think literally hundreds of organizations within the department. Logistics, people in health, finance, right? We have all the things that any corporation has. And the department now, through policy and guidance, establishing the right talent to help manage and maintain and take ownership in the domain. So with that domain, responsible for building those data products as the subject matter experts. Since they're closest to the data, they know the mission, they know what all the fields mean, and can aggregate that to produce products of value. And then the two on the bottom, self-serve data infrastructure as a platform. So Cody hit Advana, and he was on Advana since day one in terms of, and I've been on it for about 2.5 years now, but it's one of the largest platforms in the department where we're providing infrastructure, tools, capabilities with our partners. Like Databricks, obviously, is one of our tools, and Click and Tableau, right? But the key important part there, right, is for all of our engineers and scientists and builders, giving them ready access to those capabilities so that they can just quick start, build stuff on the fly without permissions, get rid of the bureaucracy. We don't have time for that, so just literally giving them the package and say, go do it, go build it, and make things happen. Obviously, we still have to worry about governance. So one of the main things we're working with our partners like Amuda and our Databricks data catalog as well is federated computational governance. So, right, to avoid the email, the service desk, right, in real time, getting interoperability with our metadata strategy, with our security policies. So when you want to access a dashboard, you want to access data, you want to access an analytics, that's ready to go at the fingertips. We have governance in place to basically automate, connecting the people to the products that they need. So all 4 of these, we're working simultaneously to bring up together to help realize that vision. One of the key big plays, like Cody mentioned, data quality. Gen AI is the name of this conference. And one of the big efforts across the department that Dr. Martell is leading up is establishing high quality data. To train an LLM, right, they get you most of the way there, and then you use your data to kind of enrich and customize what that solution would look like. For us on the Advana platform and through the policy arms and the digital talent management, integrating all those things together. So time now, we're basically every data set on Advana in real time as data is ingesting, we're running data quality statistics to capture that data to be able to feed back. We're largely upstream users from these source systems. Like Cody mentioned, Mocha is one of the systems he read in academia study. It is literally the oldest IT system in the world. And so when we say build us a data product and API, it's a non-starter. So we work with those partners to bring the data to Advana, help run these statistics. And the hard part in the socio-technical approach, the technology, I think, is easy. We have talented engineers, scientists, technologists to help make that happen. But the people process problem, that's one of the key things we concentrate in with the policy arms, helping to guide and implement those procedures. So we get data quality scores, then we can create a proactive feedback loop to say, here's what we're seeing, here's corrections, downstream that we need to see. So that way, when we're serving these products in different analytics applications in real time, we have a feedback loop because when the Secretary of Defense or the Deputy Secretary of Defense views a dashboard, we have to know that that data is good, it's high quality, and it's accurate. So that picture that Deputy Hicks sees is accurate, and she trusts it. So tying it all together, right, hitting the data mesh principles, the data quality approach, right, getting the right people, the right data leaders with the right skill sets to help manage and lead organizations across the entire department. We have the policy, helping to drive those change, write the memos and the guidance for implementation, and then enterprise capabilities where Advana is one platform, but there's many platforms in the department, and making sure that we're promoting and building and providing the right tools and services across the department in concert with other platforms that we share data with and ingest data from. So now we're going to hit a little bit into the actual domains and products. So this is an attempt at trying to really simplify the mass scale of the Department of Defense. So we have three main domain buckets that we boiled it down to: business, mission, and organization domains. So the key objective, right, that in each domain that they're building data as a product, have self-service platforms, and have federated computational governance. We don't want the top to say we need this thing. We want the bottoms-up approach where these domains are out there building these data products for consumption across the entire department. In the business domain, we think about like the ERP systems, like managing basically the HR function of the DoD, the financials, the audit of the DoD, right? Then we have the mission-oriented systems, like logistical systems that are literally sending food, medicine, people, supplies around the world every single day, at scale. And then organizationally is important because the DoD is one organization, and all the sub-organizations in the department, all have different missions, different warrants, and so you have to give a nod towards, just like in the logistics community, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, right? They all have their logistical components. So organizationally, you have to, think about their unique aspects and expertise in their specific areas to merge it all together. And then, what is a data product? So, boiling it down, right? Building stuff that meets specific business or mission needs. Easy to understand, high quality, easy to access, and well-defined interface. So, what does it all mean? So, we at Advana, right, we implemented a data lake architecture. We use Databricks to help access, our object stores and S3 and other relational databases. But we ingest data from all, hundreds of those IT systems. I think there's around 3,000. The objective is to, integrate and make all those interoperable. But we have many sources of those inputs, right? And they all have a very specific domain-focused mission. Using a platform like Advana, this is where it gets interesting, where we can actually make all this come together, right? So we're bringing in all these different logistic feeds, right? But in every domain, you have to boil it down. There's subdomains in there. There's someone that's an expert in air traffic cargo. There's someone that's an expert in ocean cargo. How do you package literally a munition and ship it around the world, potentially into a contested space, and make that secure and safe for transit, right? You have experts in those areas. So you need to figure that domain expertise into building a data product. And then there's just literally the routing, the FedEx stuff, right? A label goes on it, put it in the mail, and then basically every COCOM commander around the world, where's my stuff? When's it get here? Where's my people? They need to know in real time, right? When you look at your FedEx, right? Where is it? Is the delivery around the corner, or is it delayed, right? Those are the problems that need to be solved in real time to all these different stakeholders. So that's the vision of merging all these things together in one coherent data product that's thought thought of already, building something that everyone wants without the need of like the leader to ask for it in the first place. And then we do that well. Time now, we're working on actually deploying our API layer, partnering with Google Apigee, and how do we serve that out, right? And one of those solutions is through enterprise REST API layer, having a developer portal. So once again, self-service, our builders can serve and build these products and serve it with an API, easily understood, well-defined interface. And then that feeds the COPS, common operating picture, essentially like your big, you see the movies of like the big screen and there's someone important behind a desk, like that's the COP. And they have all the information that they need to make decisions. Other dashboards, other applications, whether web applications, AI, and then just sharing notebooks and models and stuff like again like Databricks workspaces. And obviously, we have to think about like we're defining all these things, but like what makes one good, right? So, usability, relevance, high quality data, scalability, performance, discoverability, right? So, usability is quite literally, right? I can understand this, it's simple. I am like abstracting away the complexities of weird numbers that the logistics uses and all the codes, right? How to make that very accessible and easy to reference. Relevance, the data's fresh, it's updated, we know its provenance and lineage, where it came from. The data quality, there's not dupes, things like that, right? The data set's complete. Scalability, right? I think one of the themes is like just the size and scale. So these things need to scale up very quickly to the masses of all the consumers, all the platforms, and all the different products and analytics that they go to. Performance, similar to scalability, but needs to be performant. These transactions have to occur as fast as possible to where they're going. And then discoverable, which is absolutely critical and part of the Avanta platform. There's a mandate that we also host the federated data catalog for the entire Department of Defense. So all these data assets and technology assets can be aggregated into one spot, so any user can go in and search and find things of relevance and value for them to use in their own applications and workflows. All right, back to Cody.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. So just on this slide, we wanted to highlight very briefly what the data mesh architecture and services we're hoping to provide actually look like to us, and where we're actually already starting to implement some of these things. So across the bottom, you can see some of the capabilities that we've already implemented or working to implement include ontology. So how do I enable search of data and discoverability and understandability of that data? And that includes semantic services as well. So Joe kind of mentioned that we have the logistics domain, but then there's subdomains under there, and they might be just a little bit different across services or different organizations. And so kind of abstracting away that complexity of needing to know what the raw fields are in those data sources and enabling those users to search across those domains, really. Data quality is a big one for the big plays, obviously. So implementing data quality capabilities at scale, both really standard data quality metrics that you can pretty much apply to anything, as well as domain customized data quality metrics. So basically, we can measure the quality of the data in the context of the use of the data, because that's arguably more important than the completeness or the freshness, is being able to measure the quality against it in terms of the use case. And then our federated data catalog, so metadata profiles, it's really where we capture all of our governance and lineage, including our data quality metrics. Our API endpoints will be accessible there. Tagging in terms of classification or sensitivity is also there, really all of our governance documentation. These capabilities are really going to help us provide that data mesh and make it interoperable across these different platforms in the Department of Defense. as well as external to the Department of Defense. We work with the VA, we work with other government agencies. We worked with State Department and Homeland Security when the Afghanistan evacuation happened. During the Ukraine crisis right now, we've been obviously working with Ukraine and other partners and allies. So we need to be able to make these things interoperable internal to the department and external. So this just kind of highlights what success looks like. It's really that self-service infrastructure. I mean, bottom line, we need to implement a data mesh architecture. We need to, practice those 4 principles at scale. But really being able to pull data from our business systems, from our mission systems at scale and potentially at the edge when somebody's operating in a denied and degraded environment and maybe doesn't even have access to internet, and be able to link that back through our data integration layer using that self-service platform so that our operators, the folks that are working in the hundreds of operation centers we have around the world, have access to that data to make decisions. Some real world use cases I mentioned, I guess you could kind of think of during the Afghanistan evacuation, trying to figure out what the readiness of our planes were, what the training capabilities were, or training status of the air crew, making sure they had the right fuel, making sure they had food and water while they were operating over there, and linking all of those things together, and then looking at flight manifests and flight tracking to ensure that we're getting flights inbound and outbound very successfully, and then as those folks were moving back over to the United States or other countries, also working very closely with state and Homeland Security to vet them as they came back into the country. So really being able to do that at scale by interoperating with those other organizations and with the actual aircraft and sensors themselves is what success looks like for us, so we can really do this at scale. I think that's the end of our presentation. We'll open it